Hey, and welcome into Party Pregame, the October 1st edition. It's crazy. We're already 5 weeks into the college football season. Tonight's matchup between Auburn and LSU will cap off the 5 straight home games to start the season for the Auburn Tigers as we really honestly start to get ready for the second half of the schedule. It's crazy. It's flown by this fast. It's even more wild that it's already October. But you know what? The weather's been kind of cool this week. It's gotten a little bit chillier, especially at nighttime. It's definitely been windy because of the hurricane. And it's looking like fall is here. So, that's not always something we get to say in Auburn, Alabama. You would think we would have a lot of fall, but a lot of times it just goes from hot to cold really fast. But hey, welcome to Party Pregame. Happy College Football Saturday. We have a fun show planned. As you know, the matchup between Auburn and LSU historically has always been fun. If you read our newsletter that came out Friday morning, we touched on a lot of the, crazy, unexpected, simply just stupid football sometimes that happens between Auburn and LSU, and all of the crazy, even things that aren't involved with the game that have happened, like the earthquake game and the barn burner, and there's so many more. So hopefully you enjoyed that. We also had our Patrick Party podcast that came out Wednesday morning. And then we have pregame, and our picks will come out. They'll debut at the end of the show from Byron's, of course, and then we'll go on from there and get ready to watch some fun college football. So thank you for joining with us. I really am honored that you would want to spend your Saturday morning watching this. So with that, let's just go ahead and get on into the program a little bit today. We're going to, of course, go through the whole landscape of everything. But Auburn LSU will be our main focus, as the Auburn games normally are. Just like last year, we went from Auburn LSU into the Georgia matchup. So it's a fun little back-to-back between all the rivalries and everything and all the historic things we can highlight here on the Patrick Party. So it's been a lot of fun. And as we always do, we start off the show with honoring this season, the 50th anniversary of the 1972 Auburn football team. We've been going through a game, as you know, if you've been watching our shows each week. And today we are on to when Auburn played LSU. It's funny that lined up. We've just got one game each day. We did UT Chattanooga, Mississippi State. We did the big Auburn-Tennessee showdown. We did Auburn-Ole Miss last week. And it just so happens LSU weekend in 2022 matched up with LSU weekend back in 1972. And this was the Amazing's team lone loss of the season. As it's been kind of funny, I think it drew parallels a lot with that 2013 team that, nobody's expecting them to be good. They were great. They had an incredible season. They had a one-loss season and, won the SEC or share. Actually, I think technically the 72 team didn't, but we can get into that controversy with Alabama later. But just like that 2013 team, lost one lone game, not very close in Tiger Stadium, and that's how it went. That Auburn rose all the way to number 9 after wins against, of course, at the time, number 4 Tennessee, and then a top 20 Ole Miss team in Jackson. Then number 9 Auburn travels down to Baton Rouge, Tiger Stadium, and loses to number 8 LSU. It was a big matchup, 8-9, 35-7. Wasn't particularly close. There's a lot of voodoo and weird stuff that happens in Tiger Stadium Auburn fans are aware of, especially our 20-plus year stint between 1999 and 2021 that Auburn has won in Baton Rouge. So that is our game we'll highlight today. Not as fun. Auburn lost, but hey, spoiler alert, the rest of them are wins. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And with that, let's go ahead and get into the Saturday slate here on Patrick Party Pregame. We start this morning with the big noon game on Fox. It's number 4 Michigan at Iowa in Kinnick Stadium. The Hawkeyes, everyone's been told how terrible their offense is, and that is the case. Their offense is so pitiful. They literally have a terrible offense. But in the same vein, they have the best defense in the country, which will be interesting to watch against Michigan's offense. Of course, Michigan, they kind of flirted around with Maryland a little bit last week. They had such an easy start into the year. This is really the first big test for Michigan. So it should be a fun one in Kinnick Stadium. Iowa always is a tough environment. A lot of big teams. Michigan a couple of years ago, remember they were undefeated pretty late into the season, played a night game in Iowa, and Iowa was able to upset them with a time-expiring field goal. So weird things happen in Iowa. The Hawkeyes should be a lot of fun to watch. If Iowa wins, this will be a nice, low-scoring, classic Big Ten ball game. So this will be a fun one to watch on Fox. Next up, we have the lead-in after game day on ESPN. Number 7 Kentucky against number 14 Ole Miss. Ole Miss has been in the headlines this week. Lane Kiffin has been complaining about how they don't have any fans and nobody likes them, and they run out of the tunnel and they're all excited and it looks like a high school crowd. He's tried social media. He's really complained a lot. Ole Miss is wearing those really, if you saw them, they made the rounds this week. They're doing, it's like, I don't even know who they're partnershiped with, but it's like some partnership where they're changing their helmet, and it's just like this blue splatter paint is what it looks like. It looks terrible. Maybe it looks cool to some people, but it just doesn't look good at all. But that's what they'll be wearing against Kentucky. It kind of looks like a bad Easter egg. Like, you know, like you can like dye the Easter eggs. It looks like someone like messed it up. Anyways, they take on Kentucky. Kentucky has risen all the way up to number 7. Talk about this. Just think of like Kentucky Ole Miss. That is not a classic 7-14 ranked matchup, but it is this year. It'll be in Vaught Hemingway Stadium again. Maybe the Ole Miss fans will come out and support the team. Lane Kiffin's been very vocal about that. I think this one should be a lot of fun. These are two really good teams. This is kind of a chance to see, Kentucky's gotten a lot of love. And they got a pretty tough test for their SEC West crossover. So I think this one should be a lot of fun. And I don't know. I mean, it could be a pretty high. Kentucky's got a pretty good team. So I think this is going to be a fun one to watch in Oxford. And that's on ESPN, by the way. On ABC, we start with number 18 Oklahoma against Kansas State. Kansas State beat Oklahoma last week. They're coming off a loss at home. Now they get to travel down to TCU. TCU's had a pretty decent start to the season. The Horned Frogs are undefeated for the first time since the 2017 season, and they haven't defeated the Sooners since that 2014 season. That was the same. All of this happened the same day. Auburn LSU actually played that day. In one day, I remember all this happening. This is it was the weekend College game day went to Ole Miss for the first time ever. Ole Miss upset Alabama. Bo Wallace and Hugh Freeze upset Nick Saban in Alabama in 2014. Mississippi State beat Texas A&M at home. So both Mississippi schools won. Remember, they were kind of a big storyline in the 2014 season. Auburn demolished LSU at home, like 40-something to 7. And then TCU upset Oklahoma, really kind of put them on the map as TCU so closely missed the college football playoff that season. TCU has a pretty good start to the year. They've struggled in recent years under Gary Patterson as his tenure just kind of fizzled out. But maybe some new blood up in Fort Worth, and it should be a fun one on ABC. To start off the day, Oklahoma will be coming off a loss, so that'll be very interesting to watch as well. Next up, a top 20 matchup up in Fayetteville. The number 2 Alabama takes on number 20 Arkansas. Arkansas's defense against Alabama's offense will be fascinating to watch. That's kind of the strengths in both teams, but KJ Jefferson's going to have another big game. Arkansas kept it pretty close in Bryant-Denny last year, and it'll be pretty cool to see what Sam Pittman can do at home. It's a red out, so they'll all be calling the halls. It should be a really fun environment in Fayetteville. It's the SEC on CBS game of the week, and Arkansas has not ever beaten Nick Saban at Alabama, so we'll see if that can change on Saturday. Alabama has, I think, what was the stat? Bryce Young had played in 4 true road games, and every single one of them has been really close. So, or within 3 points or something. So it should be very fun to watch. Alabama doesn't always play in true road environments that are, quote, tough. So it should be a fun atmosphere in Fayetteville. Maybe it'll be a good game. We will see. Next up, we have a rematch of the 2021 Big 12 championship. Number 9, Oklahoma State takes on number 16, Baylor. Baylor kind of fell back after their loss out in Utah against BYU. And now they've risen back up to number 16. Oklahoma State, I believe, is still undefeated. Remember, Baylor won the Big 12 championship last year. Oklahoma State almost made the playoff. I think they would have had they won. But anyways, it should be a fun game on Fox at 2:30 right after that Michigan game. Should be a pretty high-scoring affair, as these Big 12 games seem to be, even though they've actually started playing a little bit more defense recently. So that's fun. Next up, we have out in Tallahassee, Wake Forest, number 22 Wake Forest, coming off a tough loss to Clemson. They were so close, went into multiple overtimes, but the Demon Deacons weren't able to get it done at Truist Field. Now they'll get to travel down to Doak Campbell in Tallahassee to take on Florida State's first big Florida State game in a while that wasn't like the first game of the season and more of a helmet game. They played Notre Dame a couple years ago when Brian Kelly made the whole execution comment, which was really, really fascinating, actually. But it should be a fun one for sure. Mike Norvell, it's a lot of pressure starting the season, with Deion doing just so well at Jacksonville State. Everyone was like, oh, they're going to fire him and get Deion. Like, it was like everyone already picked out who the new guy was going to be. And Florida State, they manned up and they beat LSU and they had that big win. It was wild, but they won and they are still undefeated. And this will be a big test for them. If they can beat Wake Forest, I think people will really start to buy in. I think people are starting to buy into Mike Norvell, but they'll really be like, all right, this guy's got it going here. So it should be pretty fun. It should be a fun atmosphere. Tallahassee is always a tough place to play when Florida State's really good. Then we have another SEC showdown. Number 17 Texas A&M coming off a big win in Dallas against Arkansas. They'll take on the Mississippi State Bulldogs and Mike Leach's air raid offense. This would be a fun one. If Mississippi State can get this to be a high-scoring game, they will beat Texas A&M. It's really going to come down to A&M's defense if they can keep the offense really in the ball game on this one, because Mississippi State can score in a hurry. I forget that Texas A&M lost last year's matchup to Mississippi State. So this should be a fun one in Starkville, Davis Wade. 3 o'clock SEC Network should be a fun game. A tough test for Texas A&M coming off such a big win in Dallas that kind of got them back on track after their weird start to the season with Appalachian State. Then they beat Miami. Now they've beaten Arkansas. See if they can do it again against the Bulldogs. Then we have another top 10 matchup in Memorial Stadium in Death Valley, Clemson, South Carolina. We have NC State, the Wolfpack, number 10 in the country. How'd they get so high? I actually did not know they were that good until I made this graphic. Against number 5, Clemson. This should be a tough test for Clemson. Clemson always seems to win these big games at home, so it should be another fun one. This will be Saturday Night Football on ABC with Kirk and Chris and everybody. So this should be a fun matchup. I think Clemson just gotten a lot of they're a step down, they're a tier below everyone else after they didn't make the playoff last year. So can Clemson continue to win these big games? It was a close one with Wake Forest. Can they continue to win these big games, kind of reassert themselves in the ACC after not winning it last year, and kind of prove to everyone, hey, we're still the Clemson Tigers and we're still really good. And then our Patrick Party game of the week, as it always seems to be with Auburn and LSU. Expect the unexpected. That's all I can say for this one. We're just going to go ahead and get right on into it. It's on SEC. It's on the SEC no, my bad. It's on ESPN. Joe Tessitore, Greg McElroy will be doing the call in Jordan-Hare Stadium at 6 o'clock on ESPN. I was going to do this whole segment about the rewind of looking back at Auburn LSU, but if you read my newsletter, you kind of already did that. So I'm just going to do a nice little plug. Hey, subscribe for the Patrick Party email newsletter. It's 100% free. You can do it. If you know me personally, just text me your email, or you can sign up on patrickparty.com. Just go to patrickparty.com, scroll all the way to the bottom, click sign up on the email. Very easy. You just type in your email, and I get it, and I send it to you. It's fun. I had one guy that signed up for it and then said, please stop sending me these emails. I was like, oh, ouch. I did. But let's go ahead and just get on into it. Let's dive right in. Let's start with this LSU Tiger perspective first. Oh, something cool I just wanted to point out. If you look at our fun little graphics, notice how, if you look, our little side note about LSU, we always have a secondary logo. I did Auburn LSU's the same one. It's just because they have the same old Tiger logo. See? It's just different colors. So I thought that was funny. It actually was the same with Auburn and Missouri last week, if you noticed. But that's it, because we had 2 straight weeks of Tigers. And then the second straight week of Tigers, Brian Kelly and company are coming to town. It'll be his first game in Auburn. So it'll be funny. Him and the whole Auburn family will be ready to welcome him. Brian Kelly, we made fun of him on the podcast for his fake country accent he did and his little welcoming the fans at basketball last season. But let's look at this matchup here. let's talk about LSU. LSU, they had a weird start to the season. As it seems, LSU, just things are always weird. But particularly this season, it was weird. They had that weird loss to Florida State in New Orleans, 24-23. It was a back and forth game, and then Florida State kind of came back, and then LSU gave Florida State the ball on the 20-yard line, and then they were able to stop them, and then LSU goes on this 99-yard drive down the field, scores a touchdown on the final play of the game, and then misses the extra point to tie it and go to overtime. Bananas. Loses 24-23. Then they beat Southern at home. They beat Mississippi State at home 31-16. They didn't look that good in the first half. And the offense really clicked in the second half. They end up beating Mississippi State in Tiger Stadium. Then they beat New Mexico last week. That is something to mention. Missouri, LSU, I believe Georgia. Next week we're going to be playing Georgia on My Mind the whole week. I think it'll be funny. I don't really want to watch the game, though. Just sing the song. Georgia plays Missouri this week. A number of teams are playing easy teams before they play Auburn, so that's not easy, but I don't really even know if that matters that much because Auburn's not very good. Anyways, I think the big thing with LSU is this. It's a team. It's very different from the LSU teams we've seen in the last couple of years, just in terms of roster and everything. And that goes for everybody in college football with the transfer portal and the whole COVID extra year. The rosters have been weird. Roster management has been weird. But particularly with this coaching change, LSU brought in the most transfers from the transfer portal of anyone. I believe they have up to 13 players in the transfer portal that are all playing meaningful minutes and things. So it's a different look LSU team, and that starts at the quarterback with Jaden Daniels. If you remember, he played at Arizona State, transfers to LSU, won the job. LSU has a suspect offensive line. I would not call Auburn suspect. I would just call ours straight up not good. But LSU's is more suspect, we'll say that. And they kind of took the strategy of Jaden Daniels can throw it a little bit, but he can also scramble. And something Brian Kelly's talked about, and it's been kind of interesting to watch if you followed LSU at all, is this push-pull effect of Jaden Daniels is, he's an elite runner. And kind of, your Nick Marshall-esque, Robbie Ashford even a little bit-esque player of every time it even slightly starts to break down, he might start running, and he has that elusive ability, but also, do you want him to stand back and throw the ball? And so it's this push-pull of, we don't want to take away his, ability to run and, stop that and, coach it out of him, but we also don't want to, not let him ever throw the ball. So that is going to be something interesting to watch in this one. Auburn's defensive line really improved last week. In Penn State, they just nobody could get. We lost the game on the line of scrimmage on both fronts. It wasn't just the offensive line. The defensive line struggled too. They couldn't get pressure on Sion Clifford. He played us 2 straight years and didn't get sacked once. Problem. Auburn had multiple sacks last week. Derek Hall and Leota played pretty well. They're going to have to do it again. That whole front line is going to have to be able to get pressure on Jaden Daniels, get him running around, and then we'll just ride the crazy train and see what happens. A lot of people have said he's a little bit like Bo Nix, just esque, so that will also be interesting to see. But with LSU, it's kind of been a tale of halves for them. The first half against Florida State, the first half against Mississippi State, the offense hasn't been great. They've been able to keep it in the ball game and stay, in the game. But the offense and defense the offense has not played well. The second half of Florida State, the second half particularly of Mississippi State, LSU's really looked good. Now, LSU's not played a road game yet, and that will be interesting to watch under first-year head coach Brian Kelly and this really whole new squad because they played a neutral site in New Orleans, but it was mostly LSU people. So LSU, it's just really you don't know what to expect. You kind of felt like a little bit, Nick Saban really established things when he was there, and it kind of felt like Les Miles and Ed Orgeron kind of rode off of that a little bit. And the way things were ran under Saban for the last so many years. And, this Brian Kelly change, it's been a hard change. It's a big shift. Will it work? Time will tell. I think Brian Kelly's a pretty good coach, and it all could work out pretty well. But it's also some pressure on Brian Kelly because the last 3 coaches at LSU have all won national titles. We'll see what LSU does. It's LSU Auburn, though, and that's what I keep telling everyone. Let's get weird. Let's look at Auburn just a little bit here. So Auburn's 3-1, and I think that's worth noting in this one. People are acting like we're 1-3. We are, in fact, 3-1, and I said that in the newsletter, and I get the way we lost to Penn State, I mean the score, but even if you know anything about football and watch the game, the way we looked against San Jose State, the way we looked last week, really a cause for concern when you look at the rest of the schedule, starting this week against LSU, then in Athens, then in Oxford, then we play A&M in Arkansas, then we go to Starkville. Hey, we have Western Kentucky on the schedule, and then Alabama. Things are going to have to change. And I think for Auburn, it all starts up front. It's that offensive line. And it's that thing of just like at some point, you are who you are. Like you can only change so much. And it's just like, it's just not good. And it's like, it doesn't, like, I don't want to take everybody's to blame a little bit. I don't want to say like, it's all the offensive line. That's the reason we said good night. Turn the lights off. It goes, everyone's to blame. But when the quarterback's running around each play, does it really matter who the quarterback is? Like, it's still going to be tough. It starts off front, and I think it goes for both coaching staffs. You can blame it some on Malzahn, you can blame it some on Harsin. Malzahn, it's the years of recruiting, it's the inability to bring in new people and develop them to where we were going to probably have this problem no matter who the coach was. Harsin, we were not able to bring in any transfers, and it's not like the people we're doing now look any better than they did against Malzahn. Someone could argue it looks worse. So that's interesting. Another thing is that I just think for the whole Missouri game, the take on the Missouri game has been fascinating to watch amongst fans. Number one, Auburn did win the football game, and I know it was very ugly and everything. So it's one of those things of if they make the field goal or if he scores the touchdown, I think the same feelings are there as if he doesn't make the field. Like, we won the game, yes, and I really have been annoyed by a number of people's take of, I wish we would have just gone ahead and lost the game so we could fire the coach. The end game here is not to fire the coach. The end game is to win, and we did, in fact, win. Was it ugly? Yes. Did we deserve to win? No. Did we look good? No. Are we going to win another game? Probably not. Hey, there's Western Kentucky. But at the same time, like, the end game is to win the football game, and Auburn did do that. Now, are there a number of things to address and our concerns? 100%. But the whole take of, like, why would you be wanting Auburn to lose? Because at the end, like, it's one of those things with, like, firing the coach. I don't want to fire the coach. Nobody wants to fire a coach. You want to have a good coach, and you want to keep them and let them be successful. Like, you don't want to fire people, but at some point you just have to. And so I don't like the weird, like, we should have just gone ahead and lose so we can get rid of him. Like, no, like, what does that teach? Like, that's terrible. Sorry. Anyways, we did in fact win the football game, and we are 3-1. But a lot of things are going to have to change as the competition continues to get better, because as we saw against Penn State, when we played that caliber of competition, it looked really ugly. So the offensive line's obviously going to have to improve. Looks like Robbie Ashford's going to play quarterback again for Auburn. His injury seemed to be fine. TJ Finley going to be out another week. Of course, his former team. So we're playing this week. Now, so much has changed. New coaches, new everything. So it's really not the same for him. It's just the team he was a part of. Other than that, I think the most glaring stat, I don't want to like review the whole Missouri game, but the most glaring stat was Auburn ran the ball for 42 attempts. Auburn 42 times said, we are going to run the football on this play, which is a lot. That is a lot of times to run the ball. And I think a lot of people saw it coming, especially me. I said, with Robbie Ashford playing, it makes more sense to run the ball. Auburn's been better running the ball when he's been the quarterback. Now, I mean, you're going to have to throw it some. You got to keep the defense honest. But we ran the ball 42 times and got 82 yards, which is just like so atrociously bad. Like, what? Like, it was almost like when I read that stat, I worked the game. I'm not working this game, so that's fun. When I work the game, you know, like, you're watching the game and I'm able to watch every play, but I'm also like doing other, like, I'm focused on like literally a cable. So I'm doing other things. So I'm not like in all the stats and like know everything. I'm just kind of like watching the game from a very basic level. So when I got home and I saw that stat, I was like, oh my God. The inability to be able to run the football is just so glaring. And I think it goes back to what I said in the Penn State game. I sent a text to my dad and I've reused my thought 100 times. And I'm going to keep saying it. Seems like a lot of the season. When you walk out of the tunnel As the team walks out, they have these slide projectors on the side. I think I've said this before. And it says on there, the most physical team wins. And that's such a true statement. Like, I'm all for it. Hang a banner. The most physical team wins. I would also argue the team that can run the football and stop the run, which is typically the most physical team, also wins. Auburn can't do any of that. And I'm not trying to sit here and just be negative Nancy, or not positive Patrick. Positive Patrick. Positive Patrick died when we played Penn State. But we simply can't run the football. And I think it's mostly Auburn's teams. Auburn's good when Auburn gets to the goal line and they can just push people out of the way and run the ball in. We don't got to get razzle-dazzle. We don't got to call a trick play. You can just move people out of big people out of the way and score a touchdown. Auburn hadn't been able to do that on anything. I think it was just most clear. It's so interesting that the whole Harsin thing, and this was pointed out by Justin Ferguson. I thought it was fantastic because I'd forgotten about this. But if you even remember in his opening press conference, Harsin said, I want this program to have a 4th and 1 mentality. I actually hadn't heard that in a while, but he does say it. A 4th and 1 mentality. And Auburn had 4 4th and 1s against Missouri. They converted 3 of them, but on that last one, when everyone was tired and you needed one more. Now, you can question the play call all you want. There's takes both ways. I'm not going to argue that and play, couch coach, recliner coach. I forget what the phrase is. Coach from the couch. That might be it. When it was, you got to get 1 yard, and we were lined up in the I formation, and Missouri had crowded in. It was simply, who's going to be able to push the other people the other way? Is Missouri going to push Auburn out of the way, or are we going to push Missouri out of the way? What's going to happen? Auburn, lost a yard. It was just, it wasn't going to happen. And so, it's concerning. And LSU has a pretty good defensive line, so it's just, it's another week of, I think we're going to be running around a lot in the backfield, and can we make the most of it? And I think one thing for Auburn, as we look ahead, it feels like against Penn State and Missouri, we played the same game. Auburn played the same. We started strong, then it got a little weird in the second half, but we kind of held on. And then we just, died in the third and fourth quarter, particularly the third quarter. And Penn State was able to take a ton of advantage of that. Missouri, not a very good team, was not, and we were able to just kind of salvage that and win a game. It's also very funny. They play this whole video, and it was reciting the creed. I might have said this in the podcast. It was reciting the creed. It was this whole going the fourth quarter video, and it was reciting the creed, and it was the creed, and it was we believe in hard work. We believe in the spirit that's not afraid. Here in Auburn, here in Auburn, it was the fourth quarter, here in Auburn, we love it. Echoing the creed. And I was since Harsin's been the coach, we melt in the fourth quarter. My God. But you know what? We beat a Power 5 opponent, and I just want to shout that out. It's also very interesting. This is, since the end of the Pat Dye era, beginning of the Terry Bowden era, this is the first time since then we're going for a 3rd straight win against LSU, because we haven't won Tiger Stadium since 1999, so we've never gotten more than 1 in a row. Can Auburn go? Can Auburn win 3 in a row against LSU? It will be fascinating to see. Let's see. Other things to talk about. Just the Harsin thing as a whole. I know everybody's been throwing around coaching names and stuff. Personally, I'm not going to talk about it here until we are actively hiring a new head coach. For the athletic director, a lot of people think it might end up being the Utah State guy. It kind of looks like it's between him and current interim athletic director Rich McGlynn. So that will be fascinating to watch. I don't think we have to wait to hire a new guy to potentially fire the football coach. I don't think we would do it until at the earliest the bye week. I think that's just when it would make the most sense. If we really felt like it made sense to make a move. If not, we could just wait till a little bit later into the season or after Thanksgiving weekend, if that appears to be the case. But it's another thing of we are 3-1. I don't want to give up on the team. If we win this game, we're 4-1. Maybe we can make it to a bowl game. Okay, I'm going to clip that part off because, I don't know if I want to have people thinking we were thinking that. Yeah, I was talking to my mom today. We were scheduling things, and I was like, oh, well, what about our big bowl game trip we're taking in late December, early January? And she just laughed. She said, what bowl game trip? I was like, sad. Anyways, my only take on the Harsin thing is this. I don't want to campaign for him to be fired or hired or whatever. I would just say this. All the talk about he hasn't had control and the boosters are running everything and Harsin been able to do what he wants to do and all just BS. The powers that be. No. I won't accept it. Because at the end of the day, maybe it was a little weird in the beginning when we hired him of who he can have as his assistants. But at the end of the day, after all the drama in January and the investigation and the allegations and all the mess, at the end of the day, when we got to pick the coordinators, Harsin doubled down on his people, the Harsonites, as you can say. He doubled down on his people, Eric Kiesel, Jeff Schmedding. He doubled down on his assistants, and he said, we're going to do this my way. And this whole offseason, it's been Harsin's way or the highway. And we've all kind of doubled down on it. And we've gotten worse. That is just the reality of the situation. What you do with that, I don't know. I also, maybe I shouldn't talk about it because I am in the running for athletic director, PB for AD, hashtag PB for AD. It's a movement. Use it on your post. We're trying to get trending here. PB for AD. I will gladly be the new athletic director. I'd like to make this my public statement to the world. I would gladly be the athletic director of Auburn University. I will do it. I'm already in the university system. I work for Warrigal Productions. I already have my bank information. You can go ahead and send me the first check. I will do it. I will wear the suits. I will greet the donors. I will fundraise the money, and I will spend the money on nice things for Auburn. I'll do it. I will be athletic director. I will gladly be athletic director. Just let me know. Call me. Anyways, I was talking to someone, and I was like, Tennessee, do we just remember the whole saga of they hired Jeremy Pruitt and it was so weird, and then it was just a disaster and they fired him and it was some mass exodus from Tennessee. I was like, how did they suddenly 2 years later with this rando coach from UCF just make it work? And if you think about it, it's because they got so desperate they wanted to win. And Tennessee, they've sucked for so long. They just all unified behind one guy, have spent all this money, and it's worked. So it almost raises the question for me, when are we going to get desperate enough to want to be that level? I don't know. It will be interesting. Time will tell. But you know what? We have a football game tonight at 6 o'clock in Jordan-Hare Stadium. The Stripe the Stadium game. I have yet to mention that. I'm wearing this. It's actually a new shirt. Stanford Donahue. I love it. They only sell it in the bookstore, actually, which is really interesting. So, my nice new shirt. I was going to wear stripes to the game, but I was told you don't wear stripes to the Stripe the Stadium game. The sections make the stripes, and that's no fun. But the whole student section is the same color, so really begs the question where the stripes are. Anyways, wear your stripes and be loud. Should be a fun one. It's Auburn and LSU, everybody. Let's get weird. I mean, that's just the theme behind it all. It's weird. Auburn and LSU are weird. It's what we do. So, it's been a little bit shorter of a Patrick Party pregame today. Just being transparent. It was shorter. But you know what we got next week? The Deep South's oldest rivalry against the Georgia Bulldogs. And we are not afraid. We are not backing down. We are ready. We're going to eat some heads. We're ready. I'm very terrified. I actually got scheduled to work a Auburn-Georgia volleyball game on the same day. I was going to go to Athens, and then I got scheduled for this. I was a little sad about it at first, but I actually have a friend coming in town this weekend, so I should be all better. And I was like, man, this is so sad. And then I got scheduled for the shift, and it's between 2 and 7, so I will watch 0 of the Auburn-Georgia game. But I've kind of told myself, Patrick, maybe this is the best thing that's ever happened to you in your mental health as a person. You don't have to go to Athens and get barked at, and you don't have to watch this game and cry. And I think that's a good thing. So, yay, Warrigal Productions. But we will still have a big Patrick Party pregame. I'm excited. It's always a fun weekend, even if it really hurts my feelings at about 3 o'clock on Saturday when we're already down by 27. But you know what? I think we need to close out the program on a happier note. And we close it out with the fabulous Bingham's Bets. Everyone get excited. It's your favorite time of the show, and I know everyone's been waiting for it because they give such fantastic betting advice. I actually went back and watched last week, and it was awful. If you had put money on anything I had told you to, you would have lost a bunch of money. And you know what? That's the beauty of betting, is you probably just shouldn't do it, but isn't it fun to light money on fire anyways? I actually don't bet, which is why I give betting advice, because I don't feel bad if I get it wrong. So let's go ahead and start looking down the thing. Number one, LSU is now an 8-point favorite. It got up to 9. I don't want to reveal my pick, but I might take LSU on that line. Next up, we have... let's see. I'm not gonna lie, I normally have these prepared. I'm definitely just scrolling down the ESPN thing today. Alabama is a 17-point favorite in Fayetteville. Ooh, Alabama games are normally really close on the road, but Arkansas is yet to beat a Nick Saban-led Alabama team. You know what? I might just take Alabama on that one. Baylor is the 2-point favorite at home against Oklahoma State. I might take Oklahoma State on that line. I think they might win. Let's look. Shout out to Northwestern. Just saw Northwestern's playing Penn State. The line's not that interesting. But they are tearing down their football stadium to build a really fancy football stadium. So shout out to Northwestern. We played them in an Outback Bowl and a Citrus Bowl. We played them in the 2020 Citrus Bowl. It was weird. Kevin Steele was the head coach. But we played them in the Outback Bowl, and we won in 2009. And then you know what we did the next year? We won a Natty. You know what we did the year after we lost to them in the Citrus Bowl? Birmingham Bowl participation. Mississippi State is a 4-point favorite at home against number 17 Texas A&M. That one's really interesting. I might take A&M on that one. It's actually really fascinating that Mississippi State is a favorite. Georgia is a 29-point favorite in Columbia, Missouri, as they take on Missouri this weekend at 6:30 on the SEC Network. I would take the Dogs in that one. They kind of came out flat against Kent State. Missouri's a bad football team. Georgia will score a lot of points. Let's see. Did Georgia Tech ever fire their coach? I don't think they did. All that talk came out this week, and I don't think they actually fired him yet. Well, they played Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh's a 22-point favorite. So that will be interesting to watch. They might. Also, might I point out, because of the hurricane, games have been moved. South Carolina played Thursday. Florida is playing at 11 a.m. on ESPN+. And so is UCF. It's playing SMU. Oh, that's kind of a big game. They're playing on Sunday at noon. The UCF game is not televised. Oh, well, that's sad. Hurricanes, everybody. It always feels like there's always one during football season, and the Hurricanes come, and it's like, what in the world? Well, that has been Bingham's Bets. Everyone loves it. And you know what? Let me know if you do end up if someone on here actually watches this and bets. Let me know how I do. I like to keep myself honest. Maybe we'll discontinue the segment in the name of other people's bank accounts. But I do like the segment. It has a good little name. Remember the first year Patrick Party Pregame, we got to do Bingham's Booms, and it was like the picture of me, like when I was like in 4th grade, doing the big boom with the Gus Malzahn graphic behind me. Yeah, and then we fired the coach, so that was kind of sad. But that was, good times. I don't know what we would do with Harson. We'd be like finger, like, ooh, that I had a bad thought. Anyways, Curtain Finger, not been going too well. But I hear the NIL numbers are up on Auburn, so that's exciting. Well, this has been a very interesting Patrick Party pregame. You know what's going to be more interesting? Tonight's matchup against Auburn and LSU. Expect the unexpected. It should be a fun one. Auburn and LSU chaos. It seems to always happen. What will happen in this 2022 edition? Only time will tell. This is going to be it for Patrick Party pregame. Thanks for joining us this Saturday morning. Coming up are our picks from Byron's. Enjoy your college football Saturday, everybody. Hey, everybody. Welcome into the Patrick Party, Week 5 of the college football season. Let's get started. First up, number 4, Michigan. How are they ranked so high? I don't know. They're playing at Iowa. Iowa has a fantastic defense. I still like the Wolverines close in that one. Iowa simply just can't score. Number 7, Kentucky. At number 14, Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin has been just crying that Ole Miss fans won't come to the game. Maybe they'll have a better crowd in Vulcan Midway Stadium this weekend. I like the Rebels offense in that one. Number 18, Oklahoma. After coming off a loss to Kansas State, plays at TCU I like the Sooners pretty big in that one. Number 2, Alabama, at number 20, Arkansas. Arkansas has not beaten Alabama since Nick Saban's been the head coach in Tuscaloosa. I like the Tide pretty big in that one. Oklahoma State, number 9, takes on number 16, Baylor, in a rematch of last year's Big 12 championship game. I'm going to have to go with the Cowboys on that one. Number 22, Wake Forest, coming off a gut-wrenching loss to Clemson. We'll travel down to number 23, Florida State, who's had a great start to the season. I like the Seminoles in Tallahassee, and a first big game there in a long, long time. Number 17, Texas A&M at Mississippi State. I think this will be a fun one. I like the Aggies, but I think Mississippi State will keep it close with that, passing around air raid offense. Number 10, NC State plays at number 5, Clemson. It's going to be a fun game, but I like Clemson. Death Valley is a really hard place to go in and win. I like the Tigers in that one. And then LSU and Auburn play here in Jordan-Hare Stadium to cap off Auburn's 5 straight home games to start the season. Auburn's really struggled. Auburn hasn't looked great. I'm going to pick the Tigers in that one. That's it for the Patrick Party. Enjoy your college football weekend.